What's cracking, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and thank you all for tuning in. As always, really appreciate each and every one of you. Just finished up watching round 16 AMA Supercross for the second to last round of the season in Denver, and wasn't the most exciting race of all time, but in the 450 class, we had Hunta take everybody to Gapplebee's, including his title rival Ken Roczen, which now brings this thing down to just 1 point heading into the finale. We had fireworks between Webb and Prado, Tomac back on the box, another wild AMA penalty, and of course some Deegan total domination was in the 250 class contract. But before we get into all that, got to give a huge thank you and a shout out to my channel sponsors. Not only do they help me make all these videos possible, but they're also offering some great discounts on some awesome products. So if you like saving money and want to support your boy, then please do me a favor and go check them out. These videos would not be possible without ASV Inventions, home of the Unbreakable Lever, and the new S1 Series Single Pivot Adjustable National. Sirius Studio, they can take care of all your merch needs from hats, sweatshirts, shirts, bags, etc. And of course, the designlabco.com, they got some great designs in their lab at their co, and if you need anything graphic related, then definitely look no further than there. I've got links, discount codes, and all that fun stuff in my video description, and if you guys buy from them, a small portion of the sale goes to me to help keep the channel going. So if you guys are supporting them, you are literally supporting me. Hope you enjoy the video, and thanks again for watching. Alright, before we get into the results, just some quick thoughts about the track, and these thoughts are going to be pretty quick because I don't really think the track was all that spectacular. We're getting into the nitty-gritty late into the season. We've only got one more round to go after this one, and I think there's been some new track regulations this year, where I guess they want the start to be down the middle and have it be a little bit longer into a 180 and not have those short ones off to the side into the 90s. They do usually have more pileups on those starts, so I do get it, but it also, it takes up a lot of the track to have the start all the way down the middle of the stadium, so that's a lot of space that could be used for other obstacles that's just not getting used for that. And yeah, we've kind of seen similar layouts to this already. They went back and forth across the start several times, which we've already seen that before. I did like the two loop sections. That was really cool, and it was gnarly how brutal they were right off the bat. Right when the heat races started, you could tell they couldn't fix them from practice because the track was baked. It was the full stank dog spec. It's not like they were going to be able to rebuild those, so pretty gnarly to have two loop sections. Obviously, we had some sand, but it all kind of funneled into one line, so we didn't see a whole lot happen there besides some people coming together and crashing there because they were trying to battle to funnel into that one line. But yeah, not the best track layout, but I feel like the biggest thing was the conditions, just how hard packed and slick it was. It definitely made it very challenging, and unfortunately, next week's track is almost a carbon copy of this one. We got a lot of the same obstacles, almost the same layout, and a lot of the obstacles are just placed in other spots. So getting down to the end here, maybe they're lacking on creativity. I don't know, but let's go ahead and get into the results, starting with the 250 class. And to nobody's surprise, another win for Hayden Deegan. He's only lost one race at Anaheim 1 this year. I guess he did kind of lose to Cole Davies in the showdown, but we all know who really won that race. But yet another dominating performance from Deegan. Not really a whole lot to say about it. Totally ready for the 450 class. He's been on the 450 this whole time throughout this break. So, yeah, just had to jump back on the 250 and make another 100 grand real quick, nice and easy. And, yeah, just ripped a fat holy. He's even got the starts down now. He's got both those loop sections down now. Totally patched all the holes in his game from last year and just was totally uncontested at that one. So, yeah, if I had to guess, I think he's probably going to win the showdown next weekend too, and I think he's got some records to break along the way. So, yeah, awesome season from Deegan. Not much more to say. The dude doesn't have any challengers right now. I was impressed by second place Levi Kitchen. Coming into this thing, I didn't even know if the dude was going to race. There's been a lot of talk about his back issues. I think he's pretty jacked up, maybe some ruptured discs or something like that. I don't really know, but yeah, to be questionable coming into this thing and then grab a second place behind Deegan, I feel like that's about all he's been looking for on a good day anyway with how Deegan's been riding, so I feel like that was a really good job for Kitchen to step up to the plate. One, he's not firing on all cylinders and get himself a runner-up spot, so good job to Levi. The season has definitely been far from what he's wanted, but it does look like he's going to be able to hopefully nail down second place in points, and Deegan's on the way out of the class, so hopefully that sets up Levi for a good season of cooking in the 250 class next year because his main comp's leaving, so maybe he could be a championship favorite. But then in the 3 ride, last spot on the box, who doesn't love some box is Ryder D. I know he loves some box, that mustache says so, but yeah, really good season overall for the entire Rockstar Husky team, I feel like, besides poor Casey Cochran. The dude can't catch a break, but both Ryder D and Dax Bennick, I feel like they've done exactly what they needed to do this year. Just been very solid, very consistent, and very fast, too. It's not like they're just solid back in the 5, 6, 7 rides. They've been landing it on the box. I think they're both third in points, so really good Renaissance seasons from both of those guys. You love to see it because they were really good amateurs. Tons of titles, more than you could probably even count, and yeah, to see it all finally starting to come together for these guys, it's really cool. But that was the podium. Then a fourth for Max Anstey. I'm still a little bit confused on what's going on with Max Anstey just over the course of a season. I mean, obviously he had those issues with the appendix. That's pretty easily explained, but he just comes out so hot right at the beginning. I mean, he won Anaheim 1, he was battling Deegan at round 2, and then maybe a little transfer of power when Deegan took him down in San Diego, but ever since then, we just haven't quite seen the same Max Anstey as we saw at the beginning of the season. And yeah, obviously the appendix was going to take a little bit of intensity out of his contract for a few weeks, but it's been a while now, and I feel like this fourth place ride, I mean, it's definitely a little bit better than he was at that first showdown and right when he came back from the appendix, but we still don't have opening round Max, so maybe put his face on a milk carton or something. He'll show up for next weekend, but fourth for Anstey, and then his teammate, first ever Supercross, top 5 for Cade Menier. And before I even talk about Cade Menier, I hate that I have to do this, but we kind of got to touch on that penalty in the heat race. Absolute insanity. Like, that might have been the craziest one yet, and if it is in the rule book, then I guess I kind of have no choice but to at least respect the fact that they're following the rules and how they're written. But if the rules are written like that, then I feel like something needs to change, because the guy finished the whole race. He got bumped off the track. I mean, I don't know if they wanted him to bust a Yui in the whoops while there were other guys still probably doing their moto or what they wanted, but yeah, an unfortunate trip to the LCQ and a crash in the LCQ. That was almost a disaster. I mean, that would have sucked if he didn't make the main because of that, but all that aside, I feel like that was a really good debut for Menier, and backing up the good debut from Landon Gordon, or actually it was his second round where he did really well, but yeah, just a crazy amount of talent coming out of Star Racing Yamaha lately. But that was the top 5, then a 6 for Lux Turner. I talked to him at the track a couple of weeks ago, and I told him that a top 5 was coming, and he told me, and I quote, "F that, I'm getting a podium." And at the beginning of that main event, it looked like he was going to stay true to his word. He was really feisty and aggro and fighting hard, but man, those guys are fast. Lux Turner has come so far, such a long way, but he's just not quite at that podium level yet. But I think a 6th place is a career best, and it's definitely a season best, so good job for Lux, as well as Hunter Yoder in the 7th spot. I think he got a bad start, maybe some first lap issues or something like that, but of course it was in his contract to rip that heat race whole shot and almost lead a lap until he needed several lawyers. I don't even think the best one could have handled that case he had in that heat race, but Yoder's another one. He's had a renaissance season, just like our boy Simonson. Really all the Club MX boys, they've been turning heads all year long, so good job to those guys. Then an 8th for Robbie Wageman. Didn't hear or see anything about this ride, unfortunately. It's tough on TV. You see the leaders and then maybe a couple other guys if they're having a battle, but Wageman's really underrated, super talented. He did a lot of arena cross over the winter, and he always jumps right back into Supercross and can put himself in the top 10. He's a bad dude, and that's another good ride for him. A 9th place for Josh Varese. Really happy with his season, man. He's another one. He's really talented, a very good amateur, and then he's had a rough run of injuries and just things that have taken him out of being his best self. But I feel like he's now at full capacity, Josh Varese, and a P9 definitely shows that. And a whole shot in the heat race, leading Deegan for a couple laps, so that was pretty badass. Great job for Josh Varese. And then rounding out the top 10, Max Handbrake Voland. I think he had a crash on lap 1 in the whoops or something. It was either him or Yoder, but yeah, he and the handbrake got the shovel out, stayed digging, and they got back into the top 10. So a little bit of a bummer. I feel like he was pushing to try to get towards that top 3 in points. The 2 through 5, I think, were pretty close, but that 10th place isn't quite going to cut it, unfortunately. And then just a few other guys to touch on. An 11th for Gage Linville. Really cool to see him get that Tri-Muff fill-in ride, because Gage, he's been around for a long time. He's been really fast forever, and he was a 50cc prodigy, like one of the best 50cc riders I've ever seen. And there were some issues, I think, that took him out of racing for several years. I don't really know exactly what they were, so I'm not going to just make it up and act like I know, but there was something where he had to take a lot of time off, came back and had a lot of catching up to do. But if you saw Gage 402 on a 50cc, then you would have thought this was going to be in the contract all along. So cool to see him get some support. It's been a rough run. He got hurt right as he got the Tri-Muff ride, and I think he was supposed to do East Coast, but they subbed him in for the West Coast, and jumping right back in for an 11th off of an injury, I feel like that's pretty solid. Then a 12th for Carson Mumford. I'm still waiting for more from Mumford, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that because I have a lot of belief in his talent and skill. He's a really good rider, and I just feel like these results haven't quite shown that. And then last guy in this 250 class, a 13th for Cameron McAdoo. A bit of a disastrous day, actually. Crash in the heat race. I heard there was maybe even a little bit of a scuffle with Gage Linville post-heat race. Then he was maybe going to make the main after the Menier thing, and then he got penalized for jumping on Red Cross, so he had to go to the LCQ. Then he crashed right off the start, didn't even make it to the first turn. And I know you guys like to talk about McAdoo crashing and this and that, but I don't really think that's exactly one of those things. I think he just caught somebody's back rear tire, and that was that. But definitely a rough night for McAdoo. I feel like his future with Pro Circuit Kawasaki may or may not be a little bit up in the air. So depending on how this outdoor season goes and who does all the swapping to which teams, I feel like he's going to be somebody we're going to have to pay attention to in the silly season. But that was the 250 class. Now we'll run through the 450 class, and another win for Hunter Lawrence. Total domination. Honestly, probably his most dominant win of the season. And that was exactly what he needed. It came at a perfect time because he was 4 points down from Roczen. He couldn't really take another loss to Kenny, or he would go into the finale not controlling his own destiny, and he would need some help. So he did exactly what he needed to do. Got around Prado immediately, set him as a pick. And if you're out front and Prado's in second, I mean, that's like getting out front of the old school local arena crashes and having Matty be on his two-stroke in second. I mean, you are good. You're off to the races. But Hunta didn't really put a foot wrong, and I just can't believe this thing's coming down to Hunter Lawrence versus Ken Roczen and 1 point heading into the finale. I mean, preseason, I was kind of thinking this was going to be a Cooper Webb versus Chase Sexton deal, maybe with a hint of Eli Tomac in there, but Hunta versus Roczen definitely wasn't on my bingo card. I'm definitely here for it because no matter what, we're getting a first-time champion, and it's going to be a really cool story either way, whoever wins it. So I'm really excited for the finale. I think it's going to be a banger, but a win for Hunta, a second for Roczen, and really that thing was over right whenever Hunta got around Prado and everybody else hadn't yet. I knew Kenny was cooked. It was going to take him a minute to get around Prado and the rest of those guys, but just like Hunta, I feel like Kenny did what he had to do. I don't think it was too realistic to expect him to catch up to Hunta, especially when Hunta rode as good as he did. So for Kenny to make those moves, get into second, and just stay there and still bring the red plate head into the finale, I feel like that's about all he could ask for. And I can't stop thinking about how insane this would be if Ken Roczen finally gets a Supercross championship. So many years of being close, so many years of mid-season slumps and kind of throwing it away, and I just think it would be mind-boggling if he pulled it off. But at the same time, my brain's kind of telling me that Hunta is the man for the job. He did exactly what he needed to do. I feel like he's a little bit of a faster guy and maybe a little better under pressure, but who knows? It's a total toss-up national, but that was the top two, and then rounding out the podium, Eli Tomac back to racing at the home race and on the box. You love to see that, and I feel like that was a better Tomac than we had the few races that he had before he even got hurt, actually. So maybe a little bit of R&R rejuvenated him and got him back at least closer to the old beast mode that we know and love. So definitely not early season Tomac, but at least it was better than mid-season slump Tomac. So yeah, great ride for third for Eli, and then it got crazy behind those top three at the end, especially. Malcolm Stewart comes home fourth, and I think he was running like seventh up until like a minute or two to go, but Coop and Prado took care of each other. J. Coop and Ferrandis took care of each other. So Mookie, he got his hands all cut up from picking up the pieces, but he still gets himself a fourth. So on a night where he could have been eighth, I feel like he's got to be stoked with the fourth. And then same with Chase Sexton. He's probably not stoked on it, but a fifth for him. He should have been ninth, something like that. So to somehow squeak a top five out of it, he's a little bit lucky for that. But at the same time, fifth place, ninth place. I don't really think Chase is too excited about either of those. Excuse me. A little stutter national. Left my choke on there, but Chase fifth. Then Prado sixth. I actually was thinking Prado was looking pretty good for the podium there, but Tomac finally got aggro and got around him. And then Prado versus Webb. I mean, these have been some battles that I have not been expecting to see this year, but we've had several of them. Prado kind of started riding slow and defensive and ride behind him whenever Coop was really putting the pressure on late. And then they kind of had that issue in that berm, which we'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to Coop, but that held Prado up, put him back to sixth, and then we had a seventh from Garrett Marchbanks. I think he just quietly worked his way through the pack. Stop me if you've heard me say that about him before, but still a solid top 10. I think his second half of the season, it's definitely been much improved on the first half. Maybe still not where he wants to be, but I feel like as the second guy on Cowie and as a rookie, top 10s around P7, that's about all you can ask for, so I think that's a really good ride from Garrett. Eighth place from Justin Barcia, still going bam bam, still going for people's tib fibs and clavicles. Maybe he got a little bit tired late in that one because he was pushing hard early, ran it in on Webb, and he was making moves early, but then he kind of fell back a little bit, but still he landed in the top 10, and after being off this long and after that scary deal at A1, I feel like that's a pretty good ride. And then a ninth for Grandpa Earl. Dean Wilson continues to put it in the top 10 in his return to racing and what I think are going to be his last Supercrosses. And a lot of people have talked about how he's coming off the couch and this and that, and it's not quite off the couch. I mean, Dino kind of does go prestige worldwide. He races everywhere. I think he races in Brazil. I don't even want to name all the countries. He probably races in countries I can't even spell, but either way, he's been getting the gate drops, racers race, Dino ninth, and then a bummer for Ferrandis to come home 10th. He was pushing so hard. He almost looked like he could have gotten up to 4th or 5th. It would have been hard to make those moves, but I thought he was the fastest guy of that group. Definitely the fastest guy in the whoops out of that group. Very impressive out of the Ducati to do that. But unfortunately, it went down with J. Coop. That was all she wrote for that charge. And that was the same crash that we saw out of Kyle Chisholm and Vince Freese in the LCQ. Two lines kind of turning into one, trying to get into that inside in the sand. They both got there at the same time, and yeah, you'll have that in your contract from time to time. A little metal on metal action, and then just outside the top 10, the two-star racing Yamaha boys, 11th for Cooper Webb, and this has just been such an out-of-character season for Cooper Webb. I mean, it all started at Anaheim 1, slamming AP, taking them both out. Then he did the same thing, slammed Colt Nichols at round 2 in San Diego and took himself out, and he's just been, not doing the classic Cooper Webb things. Like, he's had some guys in his sights late race and just hasn't quite made it happen, where usually that's his specialty. And I kind of just can't believe this season's gone like this for Cooper Webb. I feel like if you told me how everybody else's season went and then asked me how Cooper Webb was going to do, I would have said he would have ran away with it for sure. But yeah, yet another uncharacteristic move running in on Prado like that. And it was definitely an emotional move. Coop was over it. He was tired of following Jorge and just wanted to get the move done, whether he had to slam him or not. And the thing about that emotional move, like I said, Coop doesn't usually do that. So a little bit unlike him, and I'm sure he's about ready to get this season over to head to the great outdoors, where he's not going to have that championship pressure. He's not going to be expected to win. And now that I'm thinking about it, he's probably not ready for the great outdoors. He's ready for it to be his last outdoor season, of course. And then last guy on the list, 13th for NBA J. Coop. He was having a pretty good ride. I feel like he was actually getting pretty held up by Cooper Webb, but I think he's usually pretty nice to Coop. He doesn't ever seem to want to get too aggro with him, but then he had the crash with Ferrandis, took him down. He was a little bit slower to get up, but damage was already done. A P13 for J. Coop. And with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys for today's video. As always, please let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, if you liked it, if you disliked it, if you agree with my takes, if you disagree, if you're tired of hearing the sound of my voice, if I'm a cooked unit idiot, if my videos suck, or if you want to be positive, whichever way you want to swing, pencil it into your contract. You have no choice. But yeah, like I said, really appreciate you guys. Thanks again, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Free of choice.